Today on the Shrewd Deuce podcast, we got a lot of stuff to cover today. It's Tuesday News Day, and we're gonna just get into it. We got a couple of cool videos for you. We're gonna cover for you. First of all, we got one heck of a crazy explosion. It's like a live action movie. We're gonna have to show you that. We also have a couple other explosions. One from a trans individual, and one from a guy who created a song that has literally exploded online and is now like super popular. We're gonna have to show you that song, and then we're gonna talk about the reaction to Lady Ballers, which we saw on Friday, which was a really fun, just lighthearted movie, and all the different people who responded to it. Yeah, there's gonna be a lot of crazy things going on there. Biden admits that the only reason he's running is because of Trump. So that boy is hanging on. He's gonna not die. He's gonna like keep us still alive. And then finally, in Canadian news, apparently the CBC is dropping a whole bunch of its workforce, all while they're participating in one of the biggest, collaborative efforts of Polyev derangement syndrome. We're gonna cover these stories and so many more on this week's Tuesday Newsday episode of the Shrewd Deuce podcast. Let's do it.
All right, we are back for another Tuesday News Day.
Yeah, Conquerworm's back.
Yes, Conquerworm is indeed back from Korea. And his comment was so salacious that it needed to be censored.
So salacious.
Well, Twitch censored it, so.
Oh, really?
They did.
That's hilarious. Just because you said the word nude?
Yes. Don't say the word.
Oh my god. Twitch is there. There's so many prudes over there. So many prudes. But speaking of two people who are not prudes, Steven, tell me about you. How are you doing, man? How was your weekend? Let's catch it up.
My weekend was nothing too crazy. We did have a bit of a insanity-filled Sunday.
We did.
Stephanie's mom had told Stephanie like a month ago that Sunday was the conjoined birthday party of Abigail and my nephew.
Oh, really?
And we did not know that because there was no there wasn't an invitation for the event. There was no reminders. It was basically just
No
mentioned
warning.
Once a month or so ago. And then Steph had told her, "Oh yeah, we'll be there." And then Sunday afternoon at 1:15 in the afternoon, which there wasn't. We usually normally have Sunday dinner with my parents then, but there wasn't any Sunday dinner. So I get this call, and it's like, "Hey, where are you guys?" And we're like, "At home. Where else would we be?" They're like, "Here, the birthday party is right now." And we're like, and I look at Steph, and I'm like, "What?" She's like, "Oh no!" And I'm like, "Oh, that would have been nice to know." So we had to rush over to my in-laws and have a birthday party.
Yeah, you made it happen?
Yep. No, we made. Well, they don't live that far away, so it's not that bad. Okay.
We have a third contributor on the show. Apparently, Steven's son decided to just chime in.
Curtis is notified. Well, Steph is trying to gain some more income, so she's doing some stuff with her dad. So I think she's taking a client or two from her dad. And normally they would do their training sessions on Wednesday nights, but this week they decided to do their training session tonight. And I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, Curtis, you have authority to tell them to go to bed." And he's like, "Becky, you won't go to bed." And I'm like, "Crap." So
just making it happen.
Might have to walk off and be like, "Go to bed." But we'll jump into some of the stuff that we're going to be watching and covering today. So starting off with an explosion of gigantic proportions.
Oh, it's a super boom. Went kaboom.
It did go kaboom.
Marvin
so let's watch it again.
It's like, where's the kaboom? There it is.
Here's the kaboom. Enjoy.
Dang. Sky numbers, the whole deal.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
Yep, that's what happens when you purposely blow up your own home.
So I was watching some people talk about this. Apparently, there was a guy who was very anti-government, had some all sorts of like mental health issues, and I don't know. People were reporting him and all that. Apparently, he was firing off a whole bunch of flares or some kind of like thing that was like shooting out, and so finally people called the police and they're like, "Yeah, there's been like probably 6 or 7 flares now. We're gonna call the police and be like, something's got to be done and all that." And when they showed up, that's what happened. So apparently, this guy, he was very anti-government and decided like, well, I'm gonna take you all with me. And when he made his post on LinkedIn, because he actually made a LinkedIn comment, he said "F you" right before he did the explosion. Crazy. So something from a movie. It seems like something from a movie. So a lot of people were like, "Dang, bro, you only see that in like live action movies, right?" So
yeah. This is why you don't hold a lighter to your farts.
That's right. Yep. Your butt is see, Steven? Your butt is the bomb.
No, see, don't make that a thing.
His butt was the bomb. That's the problem here.
And this time there was definitely no survivors.
No survivors. Brooklyn Nine-Nine reference. Yep. All right, Steven. I think we need a palate cleanse. Let's go to our next one.
Yes, we do need a palate cleanse. Oh my gosh.
Do it, buddy.
All right, so let's watch this. So from Mark, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to realize that it's a man. Quote, trans YouTuber bullies and harasses pizza man who can barely speak English for misgendering.
It's a man, baby.
Yep, let's watch.
Do I look like a boy or a girl? Me.
I think you're a boy.
No, I'm a girl.
Okay.
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 Sorry.
No. Just ugly.
Okay.
Help me out with this slice of pizza. Here, you could actually have my pizza. Do you like those? Yeah. He's so mean I'm not eating his pizza, so you should have it.
He's so mean.
Oh, yeah? Fuck him. You enjoy your pizza.
Thank you.
Bye. Look at him. He's so mean. Do I look like a boy or girl? He's telling me I'm a man. Come on. No. It doesn't take rocket science.
I'm a man. Doesn't take rocket science?
It's funny.
Apparently.
Right? It doesn't take rocket science to figure it out. No. Thank you. Enjoy your pizza. Bye. Bye. I'm just telling you, you have to be more respectful.
Yeah.
You have to be more respectful.
You're not
thumbs up.
Smiling.
To be angry. I am not bullying you.
Oh,
I don't.
Steven, it says you can't see the video.
I think you speak English just fine, my love.
Steven,
what?
I don't think you put the video on the stream.
Oh, I'm very sorry.
Oh my gosh, man! Come on, get on top of this.
So we'll kind of go through back. So this is what
go
the
back
video
a little
looks
bit.
like.
Yeah, go for it.
So this is what the person is looking like as they're complaining. There's a good screenshot. So yeah, that looks like a guy.
Oh yeah.
So to quote an old Mad TV line, he look like a man.
He is definitely a man, baby. He's a man, baby.
A man.
By the way, I saw this morning before I went to work, and it actually bugged me because the problem with these little videos that people do, it's like the gym videos. You know the gym videos?
Yeah.
Where the girls go in, they take a video of some guy and be like, "Oh my god, look at this creep like staring at my butt or staring at me," and they just want to make like they want to go online and show people how like horrible these people are horrible. But in reality, the like vast majority of those videos are the girl just being like a really horrible human being. That's the exact same thing happening here. This guy goes into whatever establishments, and he basically like wants to put people on the spot for not playing along with his little game. And this is the ultimate narcissism game. They basically set traps for people, and they're like, "Oh, let's see if they pass the purity test. And if they don't pass the purity test, these are the bad people. These are the big, mean, evil people." Like Steven, who in that interaction was being rude and and harsh and mean spirited? Like who was the mean one in your
definitely
prediction?
the person who was just like, this person was being mean, so you can have my pizza because I don't want to have any pizza that was made by him.
Yeah, but
like
shut up. That, he was calling the other person like mean, but everything that like that was harsh or rude that was being said was like by that individual.
Yeah.
These people, like the way it works, and this is the way I always respond. I'm like, what they're asking you to do, they're asking you to lie to make them feel better. That's what they're asking you to do. And right now the problem is that society is basically saying that, you know what, we're gonna empower and reward the worst, the most narcissistic and mean-spirited bullies and like, you know, a-holes in society, and we're gonna reward them by giving them whatever they want. And so you're incentivizing this kind of like rude and obnoxious behavior. This isn't what he's saying. It's not about being respectful. It's not about being being kind or whatever. It's about you. I don't care what you believe. Like, because this guy's trying to police that guy's views. He's like, what do you think I'm a boy or a girl? He was like, well, I think you're a boy. And then he's like, nope, unacceptable. It's like, well, the guy literally told you what he believes. Like, no. You have to believe what I believe. You literally have to like stop believing something that offends me, and you have to like believe what I do, what I tell you to believe. This is viewpoint bullying, which is like they're basically telling you it's not enough that you can say nothing. Is that you have to say what I demand that you say.
It's controlled speech.
It's control. No, it's actually not even controlled speech. It's controlled thought.
Yeah, like the person didn't really speak much.
No, it's controlled thought.
You have to control what they think, and that's why like we've been talking about this for a long time about why free speech is important, but why we stand against this bill from the government of Canada that restricts news being shared on social media, because the entire intent is to control how people think. And if you control how people think, then you control how they operate and you control what they believe. And you can gaslight other groups of society exceptionally simply.
Well, it's a top-down thing, too. It's not organic, because that guy made no effort to convince the other person that he was like, like a woman or what, like, so to speak. He's just like, well, I don't care. Like, I have a purse. I have long hair. That makes me a woman. I'm like, here's what I like to say. Let me give you a quick little scenario just to give you a picture of what they're actually doing. Imagine you come up to me and I said, like, hi, hi, I'm Danny, and this is my friend, my imaginary friend, Fred. It was like, hi, Danny. And it's like, oh, like you need to say hello to Fred too, because just because I say that he exists, therefore you have to play along. You have to acknowledge Fred, and you can't tell me that Fred doesn't exist. I don't care what you think. You have to like believe what I tell you to believe, and you have to play along. Otherwise, you're a jerk. You're a bully, and you're being disrespectful to me. That's because all they're doing is they're declaring something to be true, and therefore it's magically true. It's magic. Like that's the game that they're playing. It's like they're trying to gaslight you into believing, oh no, you're the bad person because you won't do what they demand you do. Now, somebody who has done a really good job of responding, which is a guy that I'm starting to get to know, is the person in the next video. Yep. This is a response to another one of these.
It'll be the video that he's responding to is the start of the video. So I have not seen this yet. So
he's going to do a live react, but this is a response to a very common trans bully kind of like tactic.
My pronouns aren't preferred. They are mandatory.
No, they're not.
Yeah, listen.
Okay, how the fuck am I supposed to know when I'm only meeting someone on the go and I'm not allowed to guess by how they look or how they dress or by what they got that's going on below? See, on this topic, I'm a little gray. When meeting someone new, what do I say? Because if I have to start our talk asking if you have a cock, then you're not my kind of person anyway. And just one more little thing before I'm gone. Respect is earned, it's not demanded in a song. If you want to be a she or a they, a zer, a z, good for you, but you can't make me play along.
Hey, bro!
That was pretty good.
It's really well done, hey?
Yeah.
This guy's been kind of going viral on Twitter, and for good reason. This guy is
that was a good line.
Yes. A lot of people do you know who Marty Up North is?
Yep.
Twitter. He basically said I have to memorize the song because I want to hour all the time.
Yeah.
Which I thought was pretty awesome.
Just start singing at pride marches.
Yep.
I don't know what to say.
you know this guy, he did a great job.
Oh yeah. It was fantastic.
For just a random
I want that
kind
as
of
my ringtone. Yeah.
I would too. This is good. Recommend.
It'd be very interesting going off into public space.
Yeah, I recommend go to if you're on Twitter, or if you get the chance to go on Twitter, look up the guy. The guy's name is Things I Think When I'm Stoned. A lot of people are calling him Stoner Guy, and so go check him out. He's got a lot of good stuff. He's got some really good thoughts. So yeah, dig into it. But speaking of ladies with balls,
yep,
let's talk about Daily Wire. And
how about you start? So we watched Lady Ballers, and I'm just finishing up my post. So you give your take on Lady Ballers, and then when I'm done my post, then I'll give my take.
Okay, so on Friday, me and Steven, so I went over to Steven's house, which, by the way, he had totally remodeled this living room, and it looks amazing. He did a great job. So we watched Lady Ballers. So if you haven't heard anything about it, Lady Ballers is basically the Daily Wire took the opportunity to make a comedy movie about the most sacred of all sacred things, which is the idea of men competing in women's sports. And the movie is basically a mid 2000s kind of comedy, kind of like Dodgeball, kind of like Adam Sandler, kind of like goofy comedies, Grown Ups, that kind of idea, or even 50 First Dates, that kind of concept, right? And the idea is a middle-aged coach who used to be a really good coach. Now he's kind of floundering in school. He gets his whole team back together, his original high school team, who are all a bunch of middle-aged, kind of not losers, but just they're not really doing much with their lives. And they get them back together to play sports, and of course they dominate. And they make a whole thing about them basically beating up on girls, which is kind of the humor that they're going for. Now, the movie itself had the story itself was simple enough that it kind of worked. The ending was a little bit too
it was very cheesy,
too flaky for me. I was yeah, okay, I get what they're going for. They went for a soft landing, but it was okay, kind of anticlimactic. Yeah. But there was a lot of jokes in the movie that definitely landed. Oh, and I actually found myself killing myself.
Now, okay, if we want to have a good laugh, here's something we can do. We can read on air the Rotten Tomatoes, the critic that hated it.
Oh, really? There's a critic that hated it?
There's two critics that have reviewed it.
Okay.
And one of them hated it. And reading it is just hilarious. So this is the review of the one critic that absolutely... Oh, now there's 4 reviews, so they've added more.
Okay.
So... This is the one that the Movie Nation was the one that I've watched.
Oh, I love how there's 2 people who actually rated it, and they actually rated it well. So it's kind of 50% right now.
Yeah. So
okay,
this is the one that I read. So full review.
Movie Nation.
Lady Ballers, got no game. If you're laughing, it's just that you're hating on the same people that you hate on because it's not funny. It's just ugly.
Of course, this is why they don't make these kind of movies anymore.
Although he did notice the comparison to The Ringer, the Johnny Knoxville comedy. Although he said that the Ringer was subtle, tolerant, and high-minded. I'm like,
oh, of course,
not really. They were really, really poking fun and demeaning against special needs people. So
yeah, it's just he hates it, and he's just trying to come up with every reason to hate it. Basically, yeah.
So they kind of go through all these things. And says, no, it goes, saying conservatives war on women, hatred for gay, transgender, quiet parts, outland, and nausea. It's nope. Want to be a woman, just shave your legs. Tell each other how brave you are for things that require no physical courage, and don't be afraid to cry at work. Easy peasy. Yeah.
I actually love the Like even the girl that was like the daughter,
Mm-hmm.
she was fun actually.
Oh,
She
yeah.
did a good job for a kid. Like she did a really
I
fantastic
did.
job.
Yeah, the opening scene with her was just really funny. So
Yeah.
be like, Mary Margaret show me my penis. Be like,
Yeah,
what?
yeah.
Be like, a boy? Be like, no, that's transphobic. How do you
Well-
know that word? I'm 8. Exactly.
One of my favorite bits that they did. It's actually really funny when he picked her up and the lady was like yelling at him. It's like,
Mhm.
I can't. What are you talking about? I can't hear.
Oh,
you. She takes
the
off
4
one mask,
masks.
and then she takes off another mask.
There
and
you
then she
go.
keeps
You're kind
taking
of
off
pretty,
masks.
but you should wear more concealer. Bye.
That was pretty good. Or
Oh,
even
it
like
was
the guy,
fantastic.
one of his players goes into the basement,
Yeah.
like, and he's got like the mask that the mascot's still like locked up in there, and I was like, okay, that was good. That was pretty funny.
Yeah.
Anyways,
So,
I recommend. Yeah, go watch it.
well,
It's really
yeah,
good.
I appreciated. I thought they were great moments. Like I was showing a whole bunch of people in my work the reporter scenes.
Yeah.
About how they start off and be like, well, like I think everybody knows why Alex has won this competition. And be like, and why is that?
Yeah.
It's pretty obvious. What's obvious? Well, you know. And she's like, I know that Alex is a beautiful and brave woman and that you're a terrible person. And they just get like kicked off air. Then they come back and then it's like, after my 2 weeks of sensitivity training. I'm like, oh my gosh.
That was good. That was good. I like that.
Such a good line.
I like how he got even more and more crazily woke, and him and Brett Cooper was just each other.
That's my slave name. Okay.
That was pretty good. Or even like there was a. I mean,
Spoilers.
it was. Yeah, there was
Not
a kid, the guy who was like, like how much?
Oh yeah,
Like,
that guy kept following them
like
around.
that. I was like, I know it's creepy, but I was like, yeah, okay, that was funny. Like I enjoyed it. Some people thought it was kind of cringy. I was like, nah, it kind of worked. Kind of worked for me. Like,
see, like
it
I
became
didn't mind the
funny.
how much. The cringe part for me was like the Crane brothers constantly fighting each other.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, it's a little cringe, and then like the weird like fascination that the one guy had with badgers mascots, and I'm like, you need mental help. Although I did realize this after we watched it later. There was an end credit scene.
I asked you if there was. You said no.
Well, apparently
you're a freaking liar.
Well, I didn't
You
realize
liar.
this. Apparently, the credits were really short because there wasn't a huge production team. Like a normal film has like a 13-minute credits. This film had
Not
like
really.
a 1 or 2 minute credits, and then it had Alex, the character of Alex, and he's like talking to Jordan Peterson, and Jordan Peterson's just listening to him, and then he finally just goes.
He
doesn't say a word. He just kind of like shakes his head in anger. It's hilarious.
Okay, you're gonna have to like record that and send it to me because you robbed me of that. You robbed me. You're the one responsible.
Well, here, it's on YouTube, man.
Oh, it's an actual YouTube.
Yeah,
clip?
here, I'll show you. Let's watch it right now.
Okay. It's like, you win this round, Simpson. I'm curious.
It might have been taken down off YouTube. It was on YouTube.
Oh, okay. Well, now
maybe let's check Twitter.
He's not going to lose. He's not going to lose. He's going to make this happen. He must atone for his errors.
Nope.
Yep, you're gonna have to do it. You're gonna have to record it and send it to me, man.
Yep, that's too bad.
That's on you. That's on you.
That is on me. Alas.
Okay.
So,
well, let's talk about what Megyn Kelly and Piers Morgan.
Yes. So this week there was an event. So, Megyn Kelly and Piers Morgan react after 2 biological men take top spots in women's cyclocross championship. They reacted on Monday after 2 biological men took 2 or 3 top spots. Tessa Michael Johnson and Evelyn Williamson took home the gold and silver medals in the women's single speed category of the competition, leaving only 1 spot for a woman on the podium. So, Megyn Kelly show, and only 1 word for the insanity of men's competing in women's sporting events: infuriating. Kelly's post also included a link to the report slamming USA Cycling for allowing men to race in the women's categories all of the United States.
You got to highlight where you're reading.
Sorry. Piers Morgan wrote on X, calling it so outrageous. Why aren't more women standing against this assault on their rights? The TV host asked. That is something which is relevant. Like this girl, like if she wanted to actually, like if she won, instead of looking happy, if she wanted to make a statement, then it'd be like, take off the bronze and be like, we all know what medal I really got. And that, the statement that would make. Because it'd be exceptionally similar to the statement made by this person, Riley Gaines.
To you is tragic. You were robbed of the glory, you were robbed of your opportunity to clearly the victor. If it weren't so tragic, it would be comical. I mean, and I understand there's a movie being made, the comedy about this very issue on the Daily Wire that I can't wait to see.
I encourage everyone to watch it. And truthfully, I think that's what's needed. Because what we're seeing, again, what myself and my teammates and my competitors saw was a mockery of women. And I believe it's time we mock the mockery through comedy, because you're right, it's objectively funny. It's inherent to almost look at this and laugh because it feels like satire. But watching that movie, to which I watched, it didn't feel like satire, it felt like a documentary of what, again, myself and girls around the country continue to go through.
Yep.
That's amazing. Amazing.
Good line.
Okay, so I don't know if you've heard, Stephen, like there have been a lot of women in the last, like 2 weeks, 3 weeks that have actually been like refusing to compete in events when like the transgender competitor. There's one, I heard of one in pool, like in billiards. She found out she was going to be taking on a male competitor, like a male, but pretending to be a woman. And she was like, nope, I'm out. And she basically like decided to withdraw. There was another one with a lady, and I think it was like some kind of a fighting sport and all that. And she said like the second she found out like, oh, this is not an actual woman I'm competing with, she's like, nope, I'm out. Right. And I'm really glad, because I think that has to happen on a much bigger scale. But there was even like a story I saw recently. There was a guy. There was a transgender individual who wanted to sue like certain women because they were they refused to compete against them. So like there's even some of the trans individuals are like, oh, thank you, I'll just take my trophy, and because what they really want is they want to cheat, and the world's basically allowing them to cheat. But there's some that are like, no, I like. It's not so much the prizes and the accolades of winning. It's I want people to like bow down and honor me as some kind of a hero. And so anybody who doesn't like inherently do that, they want this. They try to use the courts and the fist of government to basically like force them to comply. Yeah, the injustice system, really.
Oh, it is.
Yeah. So
and of course, crazy. Like even like if you face injustice from the LGBTQ, or even to the extremes of violence, like of course we talked about this earlier on this year. Violence can occur, and violence can come from the radical left, especially those in the LGBTQ, and for the most part, it will be ignored because they want to avoid the bad publicity of arresting one of them. And we saw this in videos, not only here in Calgary, we saw this in Toronto, in New York, where people were asking them to be like, hey, it's illegal to be nude outside. And they're like, this is a special exception. Why? Why is it a special exception for a certain group of people to break the law when they feel like it? Why are we supposed to tolerate this? Why are we supposed to go along with something that we know is wrong just because other people might get offended?
I have an insight on that. I was actually thinking about it this morning, because somebody was like commenting on a podcast, and they were saying like, like how do you define woke? Like how would you like? Can you give me a 1-sentence, 2-sentence definition of woke, Stephen?
Can I give you a 1-sentence, 2-sentence definition of woke?
Yes. What is woke?
Woke would be.
It's hard, right? It's hard.
It's hard to find like a succinct definition of wokeness. Can
I give you? I came up with this, and I want to see if you agree. Okay, here's my definition of woke in 2 words. And see if you agree with this.
Okay.
Intersectional tyranny.
Yeah. Okay.
Because intersectional covers pretty much the entire framework, and tyranny is literally what they're doing. It's like they're pretending to be the good guys, but they're really just tyrannical bullies who just want to force you to do whatever they demand, right? I'm like, yeah, that actually works, because that's what the whole system is. It's held together by the intersectional hierarchy, which is basically a new version. Are you familiar with the caste system?
Yep.
Yeah, you know what? Like, so for those who don't know, the caste system in India, how it works is there's 5 tiers of the caste system. There's like the rulers and the leaders, the religious kind of like gurus at the top. There's like the workers, then there's like the workmen, and then there's like lower levels, and then at the very bottom, even like some would even argue outside of the whole system, it's a group called the untouchables. These are people who are literally ostracized from society because they're the bad people. That's what we have today. We just have it by a different name. We have like basically an intersectional caste system, which is basically the trans people are on the very, very top. They're the most elite, the most sacred, and everyone must bow down to them. And they're basically they have exceptions from pretty much every major rule that we have in society. They're the elite. And then there's like, everyone falls below that. White men, cisgender people, and particularly like, conservatives, we're the untouchables. Like, we're basically ostracized from polite society. So that's why it's intersectional terrorism, but also tyranny.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
And then going woke would be like in varying stages of appealing to it.
Exactly. Either you're an ally, or basically you want to be part of the cult. That's the idea. You want to be part of the intersectional cult.
I just tased an ally. Be like, it's a good thing we don't have to get social media involved. I have a queer dog. That was a line from fairly early on in Lady Ballers. It was quite funny.
That was pretty good. That's pretty good. Yeah, it's like, please don't cancel me.
Don't cancel me. But AOC, it's so terrible. If we have to ban men from playing in women's sports.
Did you actually cover the story from Daily Caller?
I
think you skipped it. I think you had it, but I don't know if you actually covered it.
Oh, I didn't.
I think you just kind of skipped over it. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why I did that. So before we jump into that, let's go into this story from the Daily Caller. President of LGBTQ advocate group says women should learn to lose gracefully to trans competitors.
Thus making a distinction. That's making it that she's actually making a distinction by saying that. You know that, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, well, there's women, and then there's the trans competitors.
Yep.
I thought they were women. Yes.
Yeah.
No.
Lose gracefully.
That's right.
Yeah. Don't bother standing up for yourself.
It's like that thing we covered on Thursday. We're like that Babylon Bee story about like a guy, like the Irish government making a rule against like being mean to people stabbing you.
Yeah,
it's like just take your stabbing and like it. It's like that's pretty much what they're doing.
Oh, that's exactly what's going on here.
Take your beating and like it. You just got to take your beating with grace.
So Fatima Goss-Graves spoke during the hearing on the importance of protecting female athletics in Title IX, held by the House Oversight Committee Subcommittee on Healthcare and Financial Services. Trans students participate in sports for the same reasons as other kids, Graves claims. Because it's fun, creates belonging, community, and because it teaches so much about persistence, leadership, and discipline, at last they learn to lose gracefully and often win with dignity.
By the way, this is a very common tactic that they use for the trans community. They basically they try to completely and totally deny the one element that most people see that's important for any kind of like sport, which is what, Stephen? What is the one element they always try to say that element doesn't matter? It's completely pointless. It's
testosterone.
Competition.
Well, competition. Yes.
They hate competition.
Sport should be fun.
It's not about winning or losing. It's not about competition. It's about being part of a team and belonging and participation trophies and oh yeah, man.
Yeah, that's why you've heard of invisible soccer?
No. What is that?
Invisible soccer is a very, very woke soccer.
No soccer ball?
So no soccer ball. the ref runs around, and like you think that this is fake, but like there was a news art. I think this was in Seattle, and there was a news article, like a video article about this. And all the ref does is run around, and all they do, it's probably a very good workout for the ref. They point to the ground. They're like, "There's the ball. There's the ball. There's the ball. There's the ball. There's the ball. Oh, he's got the ball now. He's got the ball now." And nobody scores.
With a laser pointer, like there's the ball. There's the ball. It's like, wee!
Yeah,
treating kid like cats.
Yeah, nobody scores. Nobody has the ball for any longer than like 10, 15 seconds.
Of course.
It's absolute nonsense.
I think they even made that joke in what's it called? What was that show about the Korean family who owns a convenience store in Toronto? Like the TV show.
Kim's Convenience.
Kim's Convenience. They had a joke about that, like that female pastor. She comes in, it's like, and she's like, it's like, but who wins? It's like, oh, we don't keep score. It's like, oh, but somebody wins. Like, well, I mean, like, and then he finally gets her.
And then he finally gets her to be like, we decimated them.
Yeah, it's like we totally won 10-0, and all the kids are like, we won! Yay, we won! We're the greatest! And she's like, oh crap!
Oh no!
Oh no!
Yeah. Oh, there was if you want a funny little stand-up sketch to watch in regards to like kids sports, there's this. It's part of Dry Bar Comedy.
Okay.
A stand-up comic by the name of Heath Harmison, and he has a great stand-up bit about kids sports. And he's like, well, of course they didn't keep score, but I knew because I kept track in my head, and I made a giant banner out of our pillowcases, and it was like, we won! In your faces.
The kids are like, we did. It's like, oh crap.
Then it'd be like, oh, and then it was funny because like the final kind of hidden, like the hit points of the joke. Be like, Mr. Harbison, we're not supposed to keep score. Of course, you don't want to keep score because your kids scored for the other team.
Your kids are losers. Oh boy.
And then it was like, you're not supposed to bring peanuts. Yes, but if I did bring peanuts, I'd be doing the team a favor.
Survival of the fittest.
Exactly. So let's watch this video. Yes, let's watch the video from Fatima Goss Graves.
This lunatic.
And success.
Oh, I full-sized it, so give me 1 second.
And success in school sports depends on a whole range of factors, including how hard you work and coaching and access to really good resources and facilities. And trans students participate in sports for the same reason as their kids.
Cheating.
Because it is fun.
Look at that woman behind her. She's just like
glaring
at her.
And community, because it teaches so much about persistence and leadership and discipline, unless they learn to lose gracefully, hopefully. And often they learn to win with dignity, hopefully. They learn to do the sort of work that means you have higher grades and stay connected to school. I want every kid to have that chance, to have the chance to play. So I feel compelled to just end my testimony with a few ideas for the committee to pursue if it really wants to work on this issue. We could make it safer for students.
Yeah, no.
By the way, like the one thing that I remember somebody, I think Charlie Kirk was saying this. I agree completely. Is the idea that transgenderism, it's anti-women.
Yep.
The whole movement, it completely hates women. It's like there was somebody mentioned this. There was a judge in California and some kind of and it was like a lawsuit because like there was teenage girls who were saying like, you know, like we don't consent to a man or somebody with like penis like watching us undress. He's like, and he basically like came down and said, oh yeah, you don't have a right to visual privacy is basically what he said. And I'm just like, are you freaking kidding me? Like this is like, it's incredibly cruel because what happens is it's cruel to women. Not only are women getting injured when you allow these like lunatic, like these cheaters, these loons into these sports, but you're also like humiliating women and girls by telling them you're wrong, you're evil for not wanting to like get naked in front of like what's obviously a man. Like that is incredibly cruel. It's incredibly anti-women. And the thing I'm finding out more and more, and this is like the thing that's just heartbreaking, is that I think it's like the vast majority of the children that are buying into the whole transgender kind of like ideology are primarily girls, and especially autistic girls.
Yeah.
And so they're basically picking off very vulnerable, like young women to fall into this kind of like nonsense. It's incredibly anti-women. And the sad thing is, a lot of people are putting this on the girls to basically well, you don't like it, you're gonna have to take a big bold stand in the competition and just give up your spot. And unfortunately, like there should be a lot more men. I don't believe the idea that like it's all up to men. It's like no. Women, you kind of like got yourself into this mess by being the agreeable ones that wanted to play along because you're
it's time to stand up and say nope.
But yeah, you need to really push back because this is like anti-women. It's absolutely cruel towards women. But yeah, but even like Congress people like ALC show how just absolutely like these people are like truly evil. They're wicked people. I don't know. Tell us what AOC says, Steve.
Yep. Speaking of truly wicked people, AOC claims all underage women will face genital examinations if biological men barred from women's sports.
Let's see how she bends the logic for this one.
Ocasio-Cortez made the claim during the Tuesday House Oversight Committee on Health. New York Democrats say there were several proposals looking to marginalize transgender Americans before claiming during her questioning that women would have to get their pants checked if someone disbelieves their stated gender. We're talking about opening up women and girls to genital examinations when they're underage, potentially just because someone can point to someone and say, I don't think you were a girl. And we're saying this in an environment of post-jobs America, where states are criminalizing access to abortion and want nothing more than data on women to figure out who's getting a menstrual cycle and who doesn't have one. And we're supposed to believe this is going to make us better and safer? I think not. And per usual, I don't believe we're sitting here on a panel of men that has actually thought about the biology and privacy consequences of all women, trans or cisgendered.
If only there was a way to know somebody was, I don't know, a dude, without having to check under their pants, like we said before, with like Brooklyn Nine-Nine. There are other ways.
Well, and like, even if like every athlete, every single one, before they compete on a serious level, has to undergo a physical examination. Has to. So it's not like, oh, they're going to be checking on the day of the competition. No. They have to undergo this, and they have to include all of this information about their health.
Because they're registered.
Yes.
By the way, if I go, okay, so if I was like a 15-year-old boy, and I went to a liquor store, and I wanted to buy alcohol, and here in Alberta, it's like the age is 18. If I went to like the liquor store and went to buy alcohol, and I didn't have ID, guess what they would tell me?
Go
Tough
home.
luck, God. Go home. You don't get none. But if I told them oh, but I'm 18. Well, how do you know you're 18? Because I
identify as 18.
I identify as 18, so I am 18. They'd look at me and be like, "You're an idiot. Go home." Like you need to act prove because you need something to prove that you are you are what you claim to be. But again, none of these rules apply to trans people. Apparently, all rules go out the window the second you become you claim to be part of that.
Feelings come into the equation.
This is why I say this is magical thinking. They believe in magic, not science. Because one of the jokes in Lady Ballers, which was crazy accurate, is that you don't even have to make an effort. You can literally have a giant beard, a massive Adam's apple. You can have like hair all over your your chest and be like a gigantic beefy dude and all that. And you don't have to make an effort. You're just I'm just a girl.
I'm a girl.
Magic. If I take this is like
magic.
Steven. Okay, look what I'm holding up. What is this thing that I'm holding up? What is this?
It is a reflective device of hearing.
No, it's wrong. This is a sandwich, man. It's clearly a sandwich. Why is it a sandwich? Because I claim it's a sandwich. It's magic. Just by saying it becomes true. This is why I say it's magic. They're literally wanting you to believe in magic.
We are wizards, Danny.
Magical wizards, basically. Jeez. I mean,
we can
it's
have
funny,
the power to defy reality.
It's funny, but that's exactly what it is. I tell people, I'm like, you're being gaslit into believing absurdities. Like that video we saw at the beginning with that like individual saying, "Do I look like a boy or a girl?" Like it's obvious to anybody who looks like that is a dude. You don't have to like have a PhD in rocket science to know you're a dude and you're doing a terrible job of trying to convince people. Like it's not hard because you're basically being gaslit into believing in absurdities. It's like people are being brainwashed. It's crazy. So but let's go into like some of the consequences of this kind of magical thinking and how like there's like legitimately consequences.
Legitimate
like,
consequences.
Don't listen to anything ALC. ALC is an absolute
airhead.
idiot. No, but she's a dangerous at her.
Oh yeah, dangerous.
She's an airhead with power.
Yes.
And she'll say whatever helps her get ahead and get her like intersectional tyranny ahead, she'll say it.
Yeah. So Biden's DOE investigates Wisconsin high school. I'm gonna move after trans 18-year-old exposed penis to 4 freshman girls in locker room shower.
I wonder how that penis came out.
So the DOE had begun an investigation into an incident involving a trans-identified male student who was alleged to have exposed himself to 4 freshman girls in the high school women's locker room while showering. "I'm trans, by the way," he reportedly said before turning around and showing his male genitalia to the girls. Complaint was filed by the DOA to the Wisconsin Institute of Law and Liberty. They will have to determine if the Sun Prairie School District responded appropriately to the complaint under Title IX. However, the Biden administration's DOE has proposed new understanding and interpretation of Title IX, which would include gender identity as a protected class. Under those provisions, the male student's stated gender identity would give him the standing to shower with girls and use other facilities that were previously women only.
Oh, funny. You know what? We talked about this during remember that pool incident that happened here?
Oh yeah, back in February.
I talked to a lady because like, apparently you couldn't call the pool directly. They made sure to that. So I talked to somebody from the city of Calgary, and I was like, yeah, I want to make a complaint. And she had the audacity to try to like debate me on the phone, and I'm just like, are you freaking kidding me right now? I'm like, okay. And actually, this is what I said to her because she was trying to defend that. She was trying to defend what happened, and I'm like, okay, let me ask you a question. If I go into that pool, and I basically you're saying all I have to do is say I'm a woman, and I can now go into a women's bathroom, and I can just go and shower with naked women and naked little girls. You're saying you'd be okay with that because what you've just described is legalizing voyeurism.
Yeah.
The whole it's been a joke. Like there's been movies all throughout, so many movies that have been made about men trying to get a peek into the girls' washroom or like girls' change room. That's a trope in movies.
Common
about
gag.
Creeps that want to look at the girls' bathroom. You're now legalizing like men going in, and they always like try to like gaslight you and be like, that doesn't happen. I'm like, how would you stop somebody? Is there any way of actually checking who is really like trans and who is pretending? Do you have any kind of safeguard whatsoever? Like, what would you do? Like, is someone going to come up to me and be like, "Sir, we don't actually believe that you are actually a woman. We think that you're like." Can you give me an example of any place that actually works, where somebody will actually go in there and tell me you've legalized voyeurism? And by the way, this story of this boy. You try to tell me that no boy would try that? What are the consequences? What possible consequences could he face?
None.
And then the next day he could say like, "Oh, I'm a boy today again." Yep. What's that called? Gender fluid. You can be a girl on the days when you have to shower with the girls, and you can be a boy.
In the bedroom and a girl on the court.
That's right.
Nice.
When you're sleeping.
Yes, that.
Yes. Yeah. That's my trailer.
Yep. But speaking of things that are sleeping, let's talk about Biden.
That was a good transition. I like it.
Biden admits if Trump wasn't running, I'm not sure I'd be running. President 81 says Democrats cannot let him win, even as polls show him trailing the Republican frontrunner. Joe Biden addressed donors at an event outside of Boston on Tuesday. If Trump wasn't running, I'm not sure I'd be running. Biden's approval ratings are underwater, and a string of polls suggest he could lose to Trump. And then these are the polls situations. Yeah.
Trump, like just like a quick summary. Trump is polling better in 2024 than he was polling in 2020. So Democrats are panicking like crazy. But like, here's a quick question, Stephen. What do you think is actually going on and might happen with Biden and like Newsom, especially in like after what happened last week with the debate between him and DeSantis? What do you think is the potential? What do you think is going to happen? Do you think Biden? Do you think the Democrats are stuck with Biden, or do you think
I think interestingly enough, I think that the debate went bad enough that they might be stuck with him.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
Because like they were using the debate sort of as a platform to be like, hey, like how does like he do against
DeSantis,
like, kind of regular conservatives, and the general consensus amongst the public. The only people who were saying that Newsom won were diehard Democrats and some prominent Trump spokespeople.
Yep.
But aside from that, everyone was like, no, it wasn't even close.
Yeah, it was a kind of a blowout, right?
Yeah, because like the guy, like Newsom had to finish with be like, this isn't a red or blue America. This is a red, white, and blue America. And it's like,
yeah, it was such a cheesy,
like you lost, dude.
I think the one thing, okay, the going theory for a while before the debate was that it's too late to run almost like a secondary primary.
Yeah,
like they can't do that, and a lot of the states, like in order to get on the ballot for the state, like it's already passed. So they were talking about doing a kind of a switcheroo at the what do you call it?
At the Democratic National Convention.
They were talking about doing some kind of a weird thing at that one, which would basically be them just declaring, "Oh yeah, we're just gonna run with Newsom." But after that debate and after some other things, they're kind of like, a lot of people are kind of thinking like, we're kind of stuck with this guy.
Yeah,
and they may not actually be a legitimate way of getting him on off the ballot and getting somebody else, particularly because there's nobody else who is.
There's like, no other prominent Democrat that can actually take that role that people approve of. Like Newsom would be the best of the bunch, only because the best of the bunch is awful.
And I think that the only other one that people are throwing around as a possibility, but I think it's like it seems very unlikely now, is Michelle Obama.
Michelle Obama, but she doesn't want to do it.
No, but even if she did, I think at this point there just hasn't been enough.
No, she's been out of the limelight for way too long.
Way too long.
And she was sort of like, she was the backup for her husband. And while she still had like events and stuff that she did, it was not. She's not nearly as prominent, even as Jill. Like, because Jill does a lot of speeches because Biden can't speak for very long. Whereas Michelle was very much in the background, doing stuff with the girls.
Yeah. So it's looking like we have some really interesting stuff going forward. A lot of the court cases have seemed to have stalled, or at least they're not. They're kind of slow in moving or whatever.
Well,
but
they're being delayed until essentially like March to May.
I think the Georgia one was definitely delayed. Like there was a judge. No. The Georgia or the Florida, or maybe both. Like they were trying to get them like expedited, but they weren't. The judges were like not having it. Anyways, so the takeaway here is that Biden actually believes he's the best. He's going to beat Trump. Like he legitimately believes that. And I mean, obviously, there's a million things that can happen between now and November of 2024. That's when the election happens. But just everything doesn't look good. It's kind of like the Canadian election. Like right now, barring some massive, like huge turnaround, the Conservatives are just demolishing the Trudeau Liberals right now in Canada. So it's like, I think in Canada it's a little more of a blowout than it is in the States, but still, it's looking good for at least the Republican Party, and the idea of like getting Biden now might be a possibility. So yeah, we'll see. But yeah, it's looking more and more likely like Biden might be the candidate. We'll
it's sort of being forced into it.
Yeah.
So moving on. So this is an incident that happened in Atlanta, I believe. Yes. So rioters, $500 fine for burning down a Wendy's. Sparks outrage. So conservatives are outraged after 2 people charged with burning down a Wendy's restaurant in Atlanta in the summer of 2020 were fined just $500 each. Prosecutors said Chisholm Kingston, Natalia Hannah White, and John Wesley Wade said a fire that destroyed Wendy's in June 2020 amid protests sparked by the fatal shooting of Rayshard Brooks. During an encounter outside the restaurant, Kingston and White accepted plea deals on Thursday, just days before they were set to go to trial. They each had to pay a $500 fine, complete 150 hours of community service, and serve 5 years of probation, according to a local station. Wade remains in federal custody. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene took to social media to rail against their sentences, comparing the punishments meted out to those charged with offenses related to January 6th. January 6ers are being locked up for years for walking on the Capitol, and some never walked inside the building at all, but the guys who pleaded guilty to arson and burned down the Wendy's in Atlanta only have to pay a $500 fine. Yep. It's a 2-state system of justice. There's, if you can commit a serious crime in one state and then commit a misdemeanor at best in another, and then get 10 plus years for the misdemeanor and get $500 fine and no jail time for the felony, then the system is broken.
You know what that is? $500 fine. That's like a week of work.
Yep.
For a lot of minimum wage jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine like me. Okay, imagine you and me, Stephen. You and me go out. Like just to go to a Wendy's nearby, and they just screwed up my order. They got my they gave me a chicken sandwich instead of my junior bacon cheeseburger, and I'm like, that's it, we're done. And we just go in there and we just burn it down. And I'm like, okay, you got a $500 fine. I'm like, okay, there you go. I have it on me.
Yeah,
like that is ludicrous.
And then, of course, you can raise through that money because it'd be like, I did it to fight white supremacy and injustice, and then I get my $500, and then I burn down another Wendy's.
I had a dream. I had a dream that I could have a junior bacon cheeseburger and burn the Wendy's to the ground. I got both the good things.
Yep.
I mean, it's crazy. This is like this is like the saying that people say that the way that the Democrats operate, like this is like the intersectional tyrants. The way that they operate is they want to turn criminals into a voting bloc, and they want to turn regular citizens into criminals.
Yep.
That's how it works.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, this comes from, because I'm hearing this from a lot of people. This comes from Soviet era kind of thinking. Even you've heard of the Gulag Archipelago, Stephen? Gulag Archipelago?
Oh yeah, of course. I've read a good punch.
Good part of the portion of that. So one of the things that they say is that one of the tactics that the Soviets use is the way they frame crime. They say criminals, well, they're not responsible for their crime because they're victims of the system. They're victims. They can't help themselves. They're being abused and mistreated, and poor little criminals. But you know better. You should know better. So you commit any kind of a wrong or a crime, we're gonna throw the book at you and treat you like you're like the worst scum in human existence. That is Soviet thinking. And the whole idea behind it is they want to turn all the people, they want to scare the regular population into compliance by just fear. And they want to create disorder by it's anarcho-tyranny. They want to basically they want to go soft on criminals to keep you scared, to create chaos, and they want to allow criminals to keep doing their thing because they're useful. They're useful to their thing. So yeah, the idea of the Wendy's, this makes no sense until you realize they're working from kind of like a Chinese style communist kind of a book or like a manual.
Yep,
they're following that playbook.
Well, and it's also in effect here in Canada. So this is in our home city. Black activists send a 30-day jail term for assaulting off-duty sheriff.
30-day.
So Black activist Taylor McNally must serve a 30-day jail sentence, the same punishment handed to the city police officer who body slammed a handcuffed woman. But unlike fired police service constable Alex Dunn, McNally will actually have to serve time behind bars, Justice Peter Barley ruled Monday. She was allowed to serve her sentence on weekends. She said she could begin her term on the first weekend of the new year.
Oh, she gets to serve it on weekends.
Yep.
Isn't that lovely?
And this article does not even mention once that this individual, Taylor McNally, they arrested her.
Mm-hmm.
They arrested her for assaulting an off-duty cop. Mm-hmm. She also assaulted a child.
What did she do? Like, what was
she beat the off-duty cop with a megaphone?
Yep.
Like,
and actually
hit him over and over and over again.
Yep. No, and by the way,
this, I'm trying to recall the video. I'll see if I can find it.
Mm-hmm.
But if I remember correctly, she was attacking him, and in that sort of instance, like, the cop would have been somewhat justified to shoot her.
Oh, probably. Because at that point, like, you know, like you're literally trying to, you're literally trying to assault somebody, and you don't know what that's gonna, like, you know, lead to. If you go unconscious, they could like do some horrible things to you. But one thing I was gonna say is, like, so we have pastors who were in jail longer than this woman is, like, you know, in jail.
Mm-hmm.
We have like the pastor in James Coates in Edmonton. We have obviously like our old pastor Pastor Tim.
Yep.
I forget his last name now. Tim.
Stevens.
Whatever. Stevens. Thank you, Tim Stevens. And then we had Derek Reimer, who we interviewed. Yep. He was in jail for, like, you know, like, I think it was like longer than 30 days as well. And that they didn't get the soft treatment of weekends. They basically were thrown into jail, and they were held there for like in solitary confinement. So like this is like kid gloves treatment. Like, if you think that Canada is a fair country, you are just like,
it's a joke.
You're stupid.
Yep.
Like, you're just intentional. You're either incredibly horribly ignorant of what's really going on, which is really sad. You should know this stuff, but like sometimes people don't look into it. Or you know it is happening, and you're playing denialism. You're like, no, it's not happening. Oh, it's not that bad. Oh, it's not a big deal. It's like you're trying to downplay the complete like atrocious favoritism that's being played right now. Like, if a judge looks at somebody's skin color and what part of the intersectional, like, you know, pyramid that they fit in, and use that as a way of deciding like what their penalty is, then we don't have a justice system. We have a law system, or legal system. That's what we have. They're like, well, we don't like you, so we're going to use like the law to to completely annihilate you. Oh, we like you, so we're gonna like basically, like, you know, ignore the law and just like give you like a little tap on the wrist and be like, off you go, you little scamp. You know, you'll be good now. You know, don't let the patriarchy like hit you or something like that. Like, it's insane, man. It's crazy.
Yep. Okay, I'm just kind of going back and forth with some of the stuff. So, yes.
One change Trump?
Like,
well, I haven't been following the chat.
I was confused about the chat between Trump didn't start any new wars. That's good.
Yep.
I've mentioned my opinion on the things he stands for now over and over again.
Mm-hmm. So yeah. So for anybody who's been following us, I'm very much I think Trump is the best like, you know, option for American president for 2024. Stephen's holding strong in DeSantis.
Yep.
Very much so. And that's fine. I mean, he's totally entitled to that opinion if he wants it. That's totally cool.
All right. So we'll move on. So there was a prominent story from the past few days.
It was?
Yep.
We should totally cover it.
Yes, we should.
Tell us about it, Stephen.
All right. So yesterday there was a very prominent video that came out on YouTube and it has 95 million views. So we figured we might as well take a look. And that video is the first trailer for GTA 5. Now, to give some context, Danny, have you ever played any Grand Theft Auto games?
I've only played it like, very sporadically. Like when my friends have had it, I've kind of played just a little bit, but I've never really played the game entirely. It also didn't really appeal to me primarily. I played games like Infamous, what do you call it? Assassin's Creed, Metal Gear Solid, but this game didn't appeal to me because of the whole idea of the game. I was like, yeah, this doesn't appeal to me. But yeah, that was my experience with Grand Theft Auto.
So this one kind of ratchets things up to a whole other level. So this is Danny has not seen this yet. I watched this once, but you will be astounded by like the type of graphics that you'll see because it's pretty insane. But here we go.
Lucia, do you know why you're here? Bad luck, I guess.
This is in-game stuff.
There was a girl I knew. She said she cared about me. She tried to make my world the way she thought it should be. Yeah, we were desperate then to have each other to hold, but love is a long, long road. Yeah, love is a long, long
Well, look who's back. The only way we're gonna get through this is by sticking together, being a team. Trust?
Trust.
Okay.
I mean, the graphics will not look pretty impressive. Some of the scenes actually look like legitimate videos.
I'm so sorry, guys.
What?
I had the video on and then I turned it off.
No, your penance, your punishment is you have to play it again.
Yep. Okay.
That's your punishment.
I apologize. Let's do it again.
That's your punishment. That's on you.
Yep, that's me. I'm sorry, everybody. I didn't even notice that there was.
Lucia,
I didn't notice the comments
do you know
until
why
just
you're
now.
here? Bad luck, I guess.
You can comment on it this time.
Yeah, we can comment during it while we're watching it this time. But there's definitely, you can definitely see that they're really trying to promote the idea that this is a game where you live out the vices that you cannot live. And that's always been the kind of the theme of the GTA games. That this is just like dialing it up to a whole other level. So like the start of the trailer is all about like, oh, these are all the things that you can do to live out like an extremely full life. And then at the end they focus on kind of like the story.
I love the gator.
The gator is funny. It's clearly in Florida.
Yeah, it's great. But even like they have like a guy looks like the Undertaker.
Yeah.
Well, look who's back.
Pretty cool.
The only way we're gonna get through this is by sticking together, being a team.
It looks pretty good.
It looks interesting.
Trust?
For sure.
Yeah.
Trust.
So, here's the question then. What's the controversy over this video?
So the controversy that people were coming up with, which is somewhat bogus, is that this person, some people were claiming that they were trans, but there's no evidence for that. Like if you listen to their voice, it's clearly female.
Lucia, do you know why you're here? Bad luck, I guess.
Like that's a woman's voice, clearly.
Yeah, clearly.
So like people who are saying, be like, oh, that's trans. No. Like some people were trying to say, like, oh, it'll be woke, but I'm like, eh. I really like GTA is a game that typically pushes the boundaries.
Sure.
Like those who have played the previous like I played GTA 5. And there was a character who basically just he walked around being the least courteous, most offensive person you could imagine.
Okay.
And there was a funny little scene, and I'm trying to remember it, where he goes to this kid's house and he's like bowing and pretending to be really courteous.
Okay.
And he's like, "Here, you ladies," and he's like this redneck, but he's talking all hoity-toity. He's like, "Here, you ladies go out and buy yourself something nice," and he gives them some money. And then she's like, "Franklin, you could learn something from this gentleman. He's clearly been raised right." And she takes his money and then looks at it, and it's like $2. And she's like, "This is $2." And he's like, "I said something nice, not something fampy, you pompous witch." And I'm like, woohoo! Dang.
Well, I mean, this video game has for the longest time been considered like, you know, one of those like what do you call it? It's like parents are like a parent's worst nightmare, because the idea is like you can play a freestyle, you can go around and literally beat the crap out of people.
Yeah, no,
like
GTA was made famous in, I think it was GTA Vice City, because you could notoriously go out, buy a hooker, do your business with the hooker, and then pay the hooker, kill the hooker, steal from the hooker, and then run over her mutilated corpse a few times.
Yeah.
And it was like, that's totally normal behavior.
Right. The idea is that it's almost like the fantasy of like no consequences, right?
Yeah.
Like
no lasting consequences.
People have talked about like, okay, so there's a scenario that comes a lot. You hear a lot of people talk about it. The scenario is if you could have the ability to press rewind on an entire day. So like imagine like tomorrow morning you wake up.
Groundhog Day syndrome.
Groundhog Day syndrome, right? The idea tomorrow you wake up and then you basically have an entire day that's basically a write-off. You can do whatever the heck you want, and then at the end of it, you wake up and then like it's like nothing
as if nothing has ever happened. Yeah,
right. That's basically what this game does.
Well, and I think it actually goes a little further than that, because games like this in the past have been okay. This is more of like an outlet of like all the crazy things in society that you'd want to do, but that you would never be able to do. And now video games are actually moving in a different direction, especially with the addition of like Meta and VR and the integration between video games and things like Facebook and things like YouTube.
Yeah.
Games like this are a testament to you don't have to live your life in the real world. You can live your life in the virtual world, and it can be just as fulfilling, or not even more fulfilling and more entertaining, because you can live the life that you've always wanted, and there's no consequences for it. Yeah. And then you can have all of your friends, and you don't ever have to leave your room or do anything of any substance in life, because there's no consequences, and everything is safe if you do it online.
It's the Avatar scenario, like the movie. Like Jake Sully came from a really crappy world and all that kind of stuff. He plugs into that the magical system, and suddenly he's living better and more amazing life as this avatar than he ever lived in his own life. He basically there he can run, he can fly, he has a romance with an incredible woman, all that kind of stuff. They're creating the self-made. They're basically trying to create the Matrix, but where you get to decide what your Matrix is.
Yeah.
Like imagine that, the idea that you can,
and I found myself when I was in my late teens, early 20s, I would say that I was addicted. Like I would be playing video games for 5 to 6 hours a day, pretty much every day.
Oh, you're like Penny from Big Bang Theory.
And
cheater on your hair. Oh, how about that?
How about that? Yeah, exactly. And then when you, of course, have stuff that goes on in the real world, then you distance yourself from that. And nowadays, it's like, well, I'll play once in a while. And occasionally I'll have my 2 to 3 hour gaming sessions where I'm just like, all right, whatever. I don't have anything else to do, so sure. What the heck?
You do it on the fly, but not
do it on the fly. It doesn't occupy a good amount of like my time and energy of my life, and it's not something where I'm just like I'm getting off work because I'm like, oh, like I want to go home and play video games. It's like, well, no, I want to go home and like have lunch and play with my kids, and then if they're napping and like I've tidied up around the house, then sure, like I'll play a bit to pass the time, because it's middle of the afternoon and everybody else is at work.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's not something that occupies my time and energy and attention. Whereas they're trying to make gaming and, of course, the metaverse, kind of the concept of the metaverse, they're trying to make that far more appealing than real life and to abandon the aspect of reality.
But the thing is like that you combine that, because it's not just that they're trying to create like a metaverse style thing, but now with the advent of AI, which AI can do things that like are far beyond human capabilities. They can render worlds and figure out solutions to problems that we can't even imagine at this point. That suddenly becomes a real possibility in the next 10, 15 years. Because AI basically makes it possible to do things that we couldn't imagine doing before. So yeah, it's gonna be crazy, man. It's gonna be crazy.
Yep. So
but
that was our reaction to GTA 5. I mean GTA 6.
Let's talk about what's going on in
Europe.
In the climate change cult and what they're going through.
Europe in deep freeze as Kerry warns of rampant global warming. Quote, judge with your own eyes what science is telling us.
I will. And
so
science
John Kerry at Ever Global Warming Conference, he takes a private jet to. The world will end in 1984, 1990, 2000, 2008, 2004, 2030.
It's always new.
So this is John Kerry speaking in the climate conference.
The best scientists in the world unanimously are telling us as leaders in our countries that we are on the brink of tipping points from which you cannot come back. Irreversible.
How dare you?
That the permafrost or the Barents Sea ice or the coral reefs, or most importantly, the Arctic and the Antarctic may be at tipping point or beyond.
Not or not.
Last summer, it was 70 degrees Fahrenheit above normal in the Arctic. It was 100 degrees Fahrenheit above normal in the Antarctic. And a massive component of ice that had been lodged in the mud because it was so heavy, it was stuck there, has now melted sufficiently that it's risen and moving across the Southern Ocean towards Georgia Island, and it will melt and accelerate the sea level rise of the planet.
I think the sea level is going to rise
this year. We just learned yesterday; it was confirmed. It's not when we.
Yeah, John Kerry is a quack.
No, it's okay. Here's the question. Here's a question. Okay, let me give you a scenario, Stephen. Imagine if you could get you could get John Kerry, I don't know, Justin Trudeau, or like I don't know, Greta Thunberg. You get them in a room. And you basically have the lasso, like the Wonder Woman lasso of what does she call that thing? The lasso of truth or something like that?
Yep.
You want right? Okay. Do you think that they actually believe this stuff, or do you think that they know it's completely complete BS and they're just using it for their own things? I wonder.
It depends who it is.
Yeah.
Like John Kerry. Because when the people have asked John Kerry, be like, okay, so you go to all these climate conferences and you always take a private jet.
Yeah.
And so they asked him, and he, in typical John Kerry fashion, he was like, if he was to actually believe this stuff, then I'd be like, okay, I'm going to take all these things and I'm going to actually do everything that I can to actually make a difference. But almost every single person that goes to one of these events or advocates that people live differently, like eating the bugs and living in the pods, they will do all of these things to pretend. John Kerry will take a private plane and tell other people that they shouldn't drive their car. He'll have people in San Francisco and Chicago, and they'll have a police escort, and then a mile away from the event, then they'll swap over to a bike.
It's like Obama. Obama built a house on the seashore, massive, huge house at Martha's Vineyard.
Yeah,
and it's on the ocean. And he was talking all the time about like, oh, the oceans are going to rise, all the beach properties are going to be destroyed and all that. And then they build a
massive thing on the ocean front.
You're like, well, you're clearly full of it. It's like the Nancy Pelosi thing. Remember when during COVID lockdowns, she basically, like, everyone was told like, oh, nobody can go outside, nobody can go get their hair cut, and she got caught. And the scandal wasn't that she got caught breaking the rules. The scandal is like it was obvious
that
at that
people
point
held her to the same standard.
No, it's obvious that she didn't believe it herself.
Yeah,
Same with
I'm saying that the scandal to her was that people were actually holding her accountable.
Yeah,
what was it? Because she basically tried to set a mob on the hairstylist that reported her.
Yeah, of course, because they're not sorry they did it. They're sorry they got caught.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really what it comes down to. But like the problem here is you have like Justin Trudeau. I absolutely believe that Justin Trudeau knows that this is BS, but he knows it's useful because he's part of the WEF. You have to remember, climate change is not really what they tell you it is. That's just the talking point. That's the marketing point to try to get people on board. These people are con artists. Justin Trudeau is not a liar. He's a con artist. And there's a difference. The difference is a liar is just like they lie whenever something's convenient, or maybe they want to get away with something or whatever. A con artist has to lie on purpose in order to keep their entire story plausible. They have to lie compulsively and purposefully to maintain the illusion, because the grift is they want to convince you to do something that's going to benefit them. That's why this entire the climate change thing, it's a giant grift, and Justin Trudeau knows it, which is why this is why he gave the Atlantic Canada that relief on the carbon tax. Why? Because he actually thinks that's going to help the whole climate change. No, because he knows his BS, and he's going to do it because this is politically expedient for him, right? These people don't believe their own nonsense. They just tell the public what they want to hear, because obviously these people are con artists and they're grifters, and they're trying to maintain their hold on power. The carbon tax has nothing to do, by the way, the carbon tax has nothing to do with climate. Nothing. It is basically a way to maintain to get more money from the public, because they have to pay for their incredibly expensive social justice projects. They have to find a way to pay for that. What's the best way to pay for that than lying to people and telling them oh, this is like a tax, but it's not really a tax. It's more of a consequence for your pollution. Air isn't pollution. No. Producing carbon is not pollution. It's just this is the lie. This is the grift. So yeah, people like John Kerry drive me nuts, because there's people who there's people who actually do believe that they're saving the world. I believe that the people those people on Twitter and those people on the street and all that, I truly believe that they're true believers. They actually believe the nonsense. But people like Justin Trudeau, like John Kerry,
really, really bought into it.
Yeah, no, but the people like John Kerry, these people are not true believers. They know that it's all nonsense, but they will continue to get people to buy into it because it helps them. There's a monetary or a political or a power incentive for them. They're liars, and they're basically they want to keep you engaged in a lie because it benefits them. But anyways, yeah, we can move on to Ukraine, Stephen.
Yep. All right. So, from Newsmax, Johnson's ultimatum to Biden Ukraine aid for border bill. House Speaker Mike Johnson told fellow Republicans on Tuesday that sweeping changes to the United States border policy would be their hill to die on in negotiations over President Joe Biden's nearly $106 billion package for the wars in Ukraine and Israel and other security needs. Johnson delivered the hardline message Tuesday morning ahead of classified briefings the Biden administration organized to underscore how desperately the aid is needed. Ukrainian President Zelensky was scheduled to address the senators via video, but had to cancel his appearance.
Poor guy. He's
So-
really suffering.
The battle is for the border, Johnson said at a news conference. We'll do that as first priority. We'll take care of these other obligations. Moments earlier, Johnson told GOP lawmakers in a closed-door meeting that their hill to die on negotiations was border policy and are pressing for provisions in H.R. 2, a bill they passed in May that would restart construction of walls along the southern border and make it drastically more difficult for migrants to claim asylum in the United States. He reiterated his stance in a letter to the White House one day after officials warned the United States will run out of funding or send weapons and assistance to Ukraine by the end of the year, threatening its ability to fight Russia's invasion.
Yeah. Do you remember, Stephen, like that? Like one of the big talking points that the Democrats always use is like, well, we take care of we take care of the border. If it wasn't for those darn dastardly Republicans and blocking all our efforts to help with the border, it's their fault that we can't take care of the border. Well, there goes that talking point. The Republicans are like, take care of the border first. It's like, oh dang, this is embarrassing. What are we gonna do now? I don't know how we're gonna take care of this. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. What do you think of Johnson, Stephen?
I think so far Johnson has done a pretty good job.
Yeah,
his public speeches have been quite like he speaks well, and he's reasonably well thought out, and he's standing for conservative principles. He's trying to what's kind of the old homage where it's like
trying to make everyone happy.
No, it's like compromise where you have to, don't where you can't.
Okay, I think I've heard something like that.
I'm trying to remember what the exact line is, but it's basically just like if it's something where it's like a mild issue, then you can have a mild compromise. If it's something that you cannot compromise on, then stand firm. And standing firm on, be like, okay, well, you can get your aid to Ukraine if we build the border wall. If we actually stand and say, yeah, we own the house. You have to make concessions to us, just as we have to make concessions to you. It's not just one way.
Yeah. So far, I've the thing I'm most surprised by is that so far, ever since Johnson got in, I can honestly say I have not heard a single conservative commentator that's actually said like, yeah, Johnson's like the worst. Like they did that with McCarthy, but so far nobody's had anything bad to say about Johnson, which is kind of interesting. I'm like, so I don't know. I mean, we were kind of hoping that Jim Jordan might get it, but I'm kind of like, well, I'm actually this is the best of both
Mike
worlds.
Johnson seems to be pretty solid.
And Jim Jordan gets to focus on what he's best at.
Yep, House Oversight Committees.
That's right. So I'm like, kind of, we seem to have kind of nailed this one.
Yep.
So.
But speaking on focusing what they're best on, let's talk about Israel taking out half of Hamas battalion.
Good
including
job,
one
Israel.
caught in eerie video in tunnel.
Oh, really?
So Israel's army has killed half of Hamas's battalion commanders since the war in Gaza began, including one caught on eerie video roaming the terror group's tunnel network before his death. So Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu reaffirmed his nation's goal to eradicate Hamas when speaking to reporters and claimed the terrorist group has already lost about a dozen leaders of the estimated 24 battalions fighting in Gaza. We're settling accounts with those who kidnapped, participated, murdered, slaughtered, raped, and burned the daughters of our people. We will not forget and we will not forgive. So this is Wael Rajab, deputy commander of Hamas' Northern Brigade, was filmed walking through Gaza's tunnel system before his death. Interesting. So this is like they're doing what they have to do.
Okay.
And we know, like we've stated this since the war began, almost 2 months ago now. Like Thursday will be 2 months since the war in Israel began.
Mm-hmm.
And we've stated this fairly consistently since the start. We want fewer civilian deaths. But we are not standing in Israel's way in their objective to wipe out Hamas. Everybody sane agrees that they have to wipe out Hamas. And they have done essentially as much as they can do to prevent civilian casualties. And the fact that they have already killed half of the battalion leaders is showing that their focus is not on killing civilians, it's on killing Hamas.
Yep. And the crazy thing about this is that I always tell this to people. I'm like, name me a urban that didn't have like civilian casualties. Nobody can, because there isn't one. There is no urban war that took place in some kind of urban environment. I'm like, you're going to have civilian casualties, and the worst part about it is that people always talk about like the supposed like war crimes of Israel, but people never talk about the war crimes of Hamas, like the current war, like the war crimes that they're committing after October 7th.
Yep.
Because there are war crimes, like like there's actual like like international laws against using civilians and putting civilians in harm's way, putting your operations in the middle of civilian centers and using like like civilians as cover. Those are war crimes. And people are like, and I actually told people, I'm like, they're like, well, Israel's committing war crimes. First of all, prove it. Secondly, what about Hamas's like like war crimes? They're like, what are you talking about? Like Hamas's war crimes,
Hamas's war
which
crimes
they are committing right now
to this day,
including like stealing like humanitarian aid, so to speak, and taking it from the people who are suffering. That's a war crime, believe it or not. Like taking supplies meant for like civilians and using them for like your own soldiers. That's actually considered a war crime as well. Like, come on, people. Like, this is not that hard. And people, this is the Israeli Hamas war has like the most illuminating thing about it is how much people are susceptible to confirmation bias. It is brutal, and they have a vested interest. It's like they hear something that's negative about Israel, and they just jump on it. Like, oh, that has to be true. Well, how come? Oh, because it's Israel, so they're the bad guys. So that has to be true. And then, like, you hear about something about Hamas, like, whoa, okay. Whoa there, cowboy. I mean, Hamas, like, they're victims. They've been mistreated. They're by all these bad people. Like, Hamas is good. They can't possibly believe that report. This is what it's been amazing to me. A lot of intellectual dishonesty and a lot of people when they look at this conflict. Now, Stephen and I, we can look at the conflict and we can actually we can apply scrutiny to both Israel and to Hamas based on what we hear. We're like, okay, okay. So one thing I will give Israel credit for, and this is being intellectually honest, is that they took the initial number for like the October 7th deaths,
and then they actually evaluated it and cut it down.
Yeah, like, oh, it was 1,400. Oh, now it's 1,200.
Yep.
And then you see people like in Congress saying like, it's like, oh, that was it was Israelis are the one who killed all those civilians. And I'm just like,
nope.
Like, you want me to take you seriously? You're gonna make a statement like that? Like you've
nobody
lost.
Should.
No, nobody should. Like when you're making like downright like comically erroneous statements like that. I'm like, nah, yeah, but we can't take you seriously. You're like, go to the back of the line because like you don't deserve to speak with that kind of like brutal dishonesty. So yeah, good on Israel. I think that their goal is a legitimate goal and is actually like legitimately a good goal. It's like, yeah, they cannot stand, they cannot allow basically a nation that is next door that has made it like clear that their goal is to like kill as many Israelis as possible. It's like, yeah, that can't go on. Like literally, you cannot have that. That is legitimately not.
It's a recipe for disaster.
Any nation has the right to be like, no, we cannot stand for this, and good on them. That's something that they have to do. So I support them completely. Obviously, we want the reduction of killing civilians, obviously, but we also realize that this is not in a vacuum. Hamas is obviously working that in their favor. Any other comments, Stephen, about the Israeli war or something?
We've talked about this a lot in the past 2 months.
Yeah.
And like the war is progressing, and yep, I still have negative reactions whenever I see the Hamas Knicks flag on campus. So I'm just like, you guys are turds and you want genocide.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there's not enough people with any balls to actually stand up to them. So
it's the intersectional tyranny, Stephen.
Yep.
Awoke.
But there is some signs of hope CBC has cut 10% of their workforce. So the CBC's annual budget has increased by $203 million since Justin Trudeau first became Prime Minister. But since 2015, the number of network employees taking home six-figure salaries increased yearly, but with an average annual bonus and pay raise of $14,000 and $1,800 respectively, which is quite a bit per year. So on Monday, the state broadcaster eliminated 600 jobs amid reports of a significant budget shortfall and out-of-control spending by executives. According to spokesperson Leon Marr, both the CBC and Radio Canada, its French language arm, will cut 250 jobs each, while another 100 employees will be let go from other corporate divisions. Although most of the cuts are expected to occur immediately, some will take effect next year. CBC CEO Catherine Tate suggested inflationary pressures, mounting production costs, and declining ad revenues created the perfect storm. So, Adrienne Arsenault actually asked her boss a serious question.
Yeah, I want to hear this.
I'm just curious about something. I'm going to presume no bonuses this year. I mean, the Canadian Taxpayer Federation said a Freedom of Information request showed $16 million were paid in bonuses in 2022. Can we establish that that is not happening this year?
It's too early to say where we are for this year. We'll be looking at that like we do all our line items in the coming months.
So there's a chance bonuses could still happen at a time when jobs are being cut?
I'm not going to comment on something that hasn't been discussed at this
She works for Trudeau!
Yeah.
You just proved it! She refuses to answer questions.
My goodness.
It's like, so there's a chance. You're telling me there's a chance?
There's a chance.
Well, I'm just going to avoid the question because it's devastating to our case. By the way, isn't CBC just getting like ridiculous amounts of like money? Like not only is the government just like throwing money at them, but also aren't they like didn't they come up with a deal with like what's it called, Google?
I think so.
To continue funding them. It's like CBC is the equivalent of somebody trying to keep a corpse alive.
Yep.
That's basically what CBC is.
They just throw money into the fire.
It's not even like like if you remove all funding, like the CBC will die, and you know why? Because they suck. Nobody watches them. They've lost like advertisers don't want to advertise on it because everybody knows that it is a corpse and it basically is only being kept alive by the federal government. It's like, why do you keep it alive? And they lie to you about like, oh, it's about like those poor, like remote peoples that can't live without like the CBC services. And then every one of those remote people are like, no, we're good. We don't need you. We're fine.
We're okay.
We're fine. Yeah. Stop lying. Stop lying.
Stop lying, CBC. Yeah,
right,
I made a Twitter post about this. This is like CBC cut 10% of its staff, and I'm like, yeah, we need to let's go for another 90. Just destroy the company. But the woke backlash to Pierre Poilievre was egregious. So Pierre Poilievre is clearly against funding CBC. As most conservatives know, the CBC is a massive waste of money. It is a propaganda arm of the federal government.
Completely.
And they're not objective journalists. Everybody, even like the center or the right, knows that the CBC is not objective. It's only the left that believes that CBC is this wonderful bastion of integrity in news media. It is a joke.
Well,
and this one picture actually proves it.
Okay.
So these are 4 different news organizations. So CTV News, the Toronto Star, City News, and CBC News. All 4 of them have the exact same headline.
Yep. So
Poilievre's Conservative Party embracing language of mainstream conspiracy theories. Copy and paste.
Yep.
4 different news organizations. Copy and paste.
Yep. But
you don't think that Canadian media is bought off? It's a joke.
Well, and we see this all the time. Like, remember, like, okay, in Parliament, I think it was like during this past week or weekend. Trudeau basically said, like, he made this attack against Polyev. So like it's like, well, like, Polyev had a really terrible week last week, and he was referring to the media basically all attacking him and all that. And I was just like, what the heck are you talking? Like, do you actually believe that people buy this nonsense that the media is all attacking Polyev and making up all these attacks on him all at once, and that means that he had a terrible week? I'm like, everyone knows you're a freaking liar, man. Like, Justin Trudeau has okay. So one thing's important to know: the CBC, Stephen, you and I have tracked this. The CBC used to be somewhat decent as a news organization.
They used to be.
We covered a story, I think it was last year, where a woman who used to work for the CBC, she ended up quitting, and in her expose basically said that, yeah, the CBC has basically lost its way. It used to be somewhat or objective journalism,
And respectable.
but now they're just like she basically said they're a joke. They're a joke organization. They've sold out, and now they're basically nothing more than Pravda for the federal government. Pravda being the Soviet news agency that basically controlled the flow of state media. Yeah. And so people don't realize Canada used to, and very emphasis on used to, have objective news media. I mean, somewhat more objective than now. I'm not going to say entirely, because like during Stephen Harper's, during his tenure as prime minister, they were like, like making the gigantic deal about like, oh my gosh, Stephen Harper, it's like the worst scandal in Canadian history. It's like a guy forgot to pay for a certain thing. And it's like, worst scandal ever. It's like, okay, well, Trudeau is basically the most scandal-ridden prime minister in like Canadian history, and that's including John A. Macdonald.
Yeah,
who was a
notorious drunk.
Notorious drunk who said all sorts of things, and like Justin Trudeau blew him out of the water, like completely blew him out of the water.
Yeah.
So anyway,
let's
the news media.
Yeah, we could talk about the news media until the cows come home, but let's go to the final story of the day.
Mm-hmm.
So another story about Pierre. So from Post Millennial, Pierre Poilievre's attacks on Trudeau's housing hell resonate with Canadian voters. Well, yeah, duh. Now takes 66% of the average monthly income to make payments on the average single detached Canadian house. So CPC leader Pierre Poilievre released his latest political ads straight to X. He posted the video Saturday. It's a mini documentary on what the official opposition calls Canada's housing hell. As of Monday morning, it's already been viewed 3.3 million times. So here we go. Courtesy of Pierre.
Something new and strange has happened in Canada.
We'll watch the first 2
Canada
minutes,
is sitting
minute
on
and a half.
probably one of the largest housing bubbles of all times.
Something we haven't seen before. An entire generation of youth now say they will never be able to afford a home. This is not normal for Canada.
We've got students who are living in their vehicles because they couldn't find a place to live.
Tens of thousands of Canadians could default, Moshe, on their mortgages. And are we looking at that kind of nightmare scenario?
After generations of affordable and stable Canadian home prices, it now takes 66% of the average monthly income to make payments on the average single-detached Canadian house. Given that most of the remaining 34% of the family paycheck is taken up by taxes, there's literally nothing left for food and recreation. And that all assumes that you have enough for a down payment to get the mortgage in the first place. Saving up for that down payment in Toronto now takes an average of 25 years. Not long ago, you paid off a mortgage in that time. So young people must rent, but rent has doubled in the last 8 years. Newlyweds now pay $1,000 per month to rent a single room in a townhouse that they share with 2 other couples. 35-year-olds live in their parents' basements. Rents are so high in Toronto that students live in homeless shelters. Others sleep in their cars or even under bridges just to afford to go to university. One grandmother posted signs on hydro poles trying to find a place to live. Middle-class people like nurses and carpenters now live in their vehicles. Tent cities are popping up in almost every major city and many small towns in Canada, mostly in places that never had them before.
Yep, so the video goes on for 15 minutes.
Have you seen this, Stephen?
I haven't seen it all, no.
Well, you should watch it. It's amazing. I it won't load on my thing, but there's one part that a lot of people kind of like saw, and I was like, amazing. It's like he said that there was this house in, I think like it was like a drug house, or like a really like just really super rundown. It's clearly like a dilapidated house selling for like somewhere in the neighborhood of like $2 million or something like that, in like this like rundown neighborhood of Toronto. It's like, yeah, and then you can buy a house, you can buy a castle, like literally a gigantic like like mansion in Scotland for the same price. And he was like, I was like, dang, that is insane. Like the idea that you're getting a former drug house for the same price as you can get a like like a castle or an amazing like like place in Scotland is just insane. Now, one thing about this video, can you look at how many views it has?
It said so in the
Yeah.
Twitter post, 3.3 million times.
No, now it's 4.1.
Oh dang. Well, I guess that was as of Monday morning. So
yeah, this video has gotten a massive amount of like traffic. And if you compare that, like, do you ever watch Steven? Do you ever like see the Liberal Party posts on Twitter?
Occasionally, yeah.
Okay. I have yet to find a Liberal Party post or a Justin Trudeau post that doesn't get ratioed into oblivion.
Yes.
Here,
Heavily
just look
ratioed.
it up.
Yeah,
if you look it up, very, very. Just look up Liberal Party. Okay, and look up just a random post. They always get ratioed into oblivion.
I'll even look up Justin, because it was Pierre Poilievre who posted this one. So direct comparison, leader to leader.
Okay, so let's see what.
So
Justin's,
2 hours ago.
Like a post that he made. Yeah, it has to be a post that he made.
Oh, like a video?
No, like a post where he didn't just retweet, but he posted.
Well, this one is a post, the one from 2 hours about Christine Sinclair. So that one's a little different because it's not about a policy.
Yeah.
It's more of like a person that most Canadians will like and approve of because she's been the captain of the Canadian team for a long time.
It's crazy though the low amount of engagement that he gets for a prime minister. Look at that, 117 likes. Yeah, 44 comments. But I'm like,
well, that's in French.
Yeah.
So like the English version has like.
Look at the one below. Look at the one 9 hours ago.
Yeah.
726. This is the Prime Minister of Canada.
Mm-hmm.
Getting like under 1,000 likes on a post like that. Okay, look at the Liberal Party of Canada. Because this is the one I always find hilarious. Like they literally cannot make a post and then not get ratioed into like oblivion.
Okay.
It's crazy.
So Liberal Party, Pierre only cares about Pierre. 834 likes, 1.2 thousand comments. 65,000 views.
Okay. Look at the one below that.
But 53,000 views, 350 likes, 1.5.
Like I actually go through just to like see how badly they're getting ratios.
It's so bad.
It's terrible. Like they even like the videos that don't get, or the posts that don't get a lot of like, they get ratioed.
Yep.
Ratioed. Every single one. Like people in Canada hate this party.
Them.
They hate them with a passion. It's crazy. And it's not just the Liberal Party. Chrystia Freeland gets ratioed. Jagmeet Singh gets ratioed. Like the Twitter is where I come to get a little hope.
Yeah,
like there's hope for my country.
Elon has fixed it.
Yeah, pretty much actually.
Yep. No, it's actually a platform where I'm like, yeah, I like coming to Twitter because you'll actually get a variety of opinions.
Actual engagement.
And it's a lot harder. Like on Twitter, you'll get a lot more flack for hiding responses, or you'll get a lot more flack for blocking people.
Mm-hmm.
On Facebook, it's like, well, then I'll just block you. First. Like it happens all the time. Well, whereas on Twitter, it's like, well, if you block someone, then it's like, well, you lost the engagement.
From what I've heard, because Dimple was talking about this. Apparently, YouTube has a process for appeals, and the process actually has some merit to it, right? Whereas Facebook has literally no process. And I've encountered this. I remember like a few times I've gotten like some kind of a ding on Facebook. They're like, "Oh, well, we've you've gotten this kind of thing," and then you go to the thing and appeal my decision, and I'm like, "Okay, well, appeal," and then suddenly I'll be like, "Well, we've reviewed it, and you're good now." And I'm like, "Wait, what?" Like, I don't even know what happened. Like, I just literally they just kind of like a magic button was pressed somewhere, and I got my appeal overturned and all that. I think Facebook is entirely robots, like algorithms and bots that they use to kind of like to punish people. But I think that like YouTube actually has you actually have an appeal process, and people can actually get appeals with real people, not with like some computer or something like that. So it's crazy. I don't know. It's crazy. But,
Yep. All right. So that's we're nearly at 2 hours, and I need to be getting to bed. So,
like one last thing. So collusion.
You address
collusion?
that, yeah.
Yeah, he said that online spaces aren't representative of populations. I think Twitter is different.
It is
because
more.
Twitter is far more representative of both sides, I think. Because the conservatives use it because it's where the action is, and liberals use it because
It's still one of the busiest social platforms.
Right. If you said Threads, I'm like, yeah, okay, Threads is like super lefty. If you said what do you call it, TikTok, that's incredibly left wing. So yeah, that's an echo chamber. If you said True Social, I'm like, well, that's almost entirely conservatives there. So like things like that, yes. But Twitter is an interesting one. Now the only wild card in that I'd say is bots. How many bots? How many like AI are in the comments? That's the real question, but we don't know. But yeah, polls, comments on Twitter, a lot of these things are you got to take all these factors together to kind of have an idea of like what what it's like across the country. However, in Canada, the real problem is that as far as Twitter goes, because of our system, our voting system, it is very difficult to know if the majority of the population, like last two elections, Stephen, the conservatives got the majority votes, right?
Yep.
But they still lost the election.
Yep.
It's because it's all about where are the votes going, because if you like in key races in Toronto, in like Toronto, Montreal, and some of the eastern provinces, like it's almost a complete and total whitewash of liberal victories, and that's how they win, because they win strategically, not because the majority of the country believes that the liberals are the better party. So yeah, I don't know. I think it helps. That's the answer I would give. What do you think,
Yep.
Steve?
Oh no, that it makes sense. Makes sense.
He agrees with everything I said. Yeah.
Well, I'm just getting tired, so
I get it.
All right, that's where we're gonna end today's show. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. If you joined us on the live stream in terms of chats and commentary, then thank you very much for joining us. We hope to see you on Thursday when we do the same thing all over again. So be sure and join us then. We'll try and start at about 8 p.m. Mountain Time. And of course, you can join us on Twitch and Twitter. That being said, if you want to see our other video content, you can check us out at YouTube, BitChute, and Rumble, or you can check us out on our text platforms at theshrewddudes.com or on Gitter, Twitter, and Facebook.
Come check us out.
Yep. So,
by the way, if you guys haven't signed up on Rumble or just subscribed, definitely do that, and maybe even share our Rumble, videos on Rumble, because if we can get to 100 subscribers on Rumble, we can start streaming on Rumble, which would be awesome.
Would be fun. All right. So, here at the Shrewd Dudes podcast, we always like to remind you, why be rude when you can be shrewd? Have a great night, everybody. And as always, God bless.